your income, your religion, or the gender with which you identify. You are welcome here regardless of who you love, who you vote for, the regrets that burden you, or the mistakes you have made. In this safe community, we support each other in the sacred task of becoming, celebrate the transcending mystery of life, and rely on the transforming power of love. Here, we revere the words of the great teachers, such as Jesus, the Buddha, and Confucius. It is, however, the task of every UU to be their own Buddha, their own Jesus, their own Confucius. It is a cornerstone of our religion that each of us is the creator of their own life experience. It is our work as a community to walk with each other along the spiritual pathways that lead towards happiness, compassion, and life fully lived. And while we are a safe harbor where there is solace and healing, we are also a launching pad from which we are propelled into the tumult of life to live courageously, justly, and lovingly. In this sacred place, we create the structures that lift up the downtrodden, set the captives free, and heal the brokenhearted. Here, we have learned that to be fully human is to be fully divine, and that with a little help from our friends, we can each tell our own unique stories. So today we have a special service that Brett and Joanne have worked very hard on, in addition to, of course, Beth and Candace and our choir have worked very hard on. I have a 14-year-old niece who, when she was 12, started a conversation with a boy online who said he was 16 years old. It turned out he was not. It turned out he was a sexual predator. And he convinced her at the age of 12 to take pictures of herself without any clothes on. And those pictures, a few months later, followed her to her school. And they caused her so much anxiety and so much distress, she had to quit that school, and she went to another school. And there, the pictures eventually showed up again. And she had to leave that school too. And now she's in her third school, and hopefully she'll be able to stay there. But all this changing of schools has caused her she had to drop band, she had to quit soccer, she had to quit gymnastics, she lost a lot, she has trouble sleeping. And so if you have anything like that happen to you online, anything that sounds suspicious, first of all, don't click on it. I don't know how it works exactly. Don't have those chats. A, and B, if someone is trying to entice you into a chat, ask your mom or dad, because what they're doing is highly illegal and it needs to be reported to the police. So you guys, good luck. It's a lot tougher being a kid out there than it was when I was young. So anyway, let's sing the kids out. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Before I go, can Harvey see us after service?
All right. Ooh. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that excellent ceremony, Brett. I hated to quit on a downer, but as I was driving to church, it occurred to me that this was something that maybe the kids need to hear, because there are a lot of folks out there, a lot of predators out there who will prey on little children, and hopefully we can find ways of stopping them. But the way to stop them is to not get involved in the first place. So right now, Charles Long will speak to us about owl history, and then Laurie Myers and Liz Goodwin, and then Goodwin, and Nico Rojas will speak to us. So you guys just come on up when it's your turn and speak.
Buff member Rosalind Reeder led the effort that enabled Buff to have teachers qualified to teach our whole lives from kindergarten through high school. The plan was to offer courses at Buff for the members and community. Orientation for parents and students taking the kindergarten through second grade course was held at Buff on September 28, 2002. The 8-session course was completed November 23rd. Our Whole Lives courses require a male teacher and a female teacher. Joanne Creddick and Harvey Johnson were the teachers. The students were Emily Johnson, Tommy McElwain, Walter Dalgleish, and Ian Dalgleish. That was the only Our Whole Lives course taught at Buff. Though Buff had teachers, it did not have students. In 2003, in order to have students, Buff children were invited, and the course for grades 4 through 6 was taught at Brookview Montessori School in Benton Harbor. The teachers were Charles Long and Orlean Gray, an educator working at Planned Parenthood. Buff DRE Renee Kaufman and Dory Davenport, Central Midwest District religious educator, advised against this. For one thing, neither Charles nor Orlean were trained to teach the course. Charles was trained to teach the high school course, and Orlean was not trained, although she did have a psychology degree and taught for Planned Parenthood. The Buff board, however, gave its approval, and the course was taught. At Brookview, parents attended the orientation, viewed the orientation video, and signed the permission form. The students had their own orientation and video. The parents had their own textbook and an active role in the course. The students used It's Perfectly Normal and had homework assignments. Each session ended with students putting questions in a jar. Each session began with teachers providing answers. In 2004, the course was taught again at Brookview, this time with Charles Long and Renee Kaufman. Charles continued to teach the course at Brookview with Brookview teachers, Tanya Riskin, 2007, Mary Lou Garcia, 2010, and Lindsay Gaspari in 2012, 2014, and 2016.
Hello. I'm going to start with just a bit of background about OWL in general, where it comes from and what it is. It was developed in 1999 when the UUA and the United Church of Christ teamed up to develop a research-based sexuality education program that aligned with both faiths. They used the guidelines for comprehensive sexuality education developed by the National Guidelines Task Force, a group of leading health, education, and sexuality professionals assembled by the Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States. The curricula are revised periodically to stay current. OWL was developed with the idea that people of all ages should feel positive about themselves and their sexuality. It's created to help people clarify their values, build interpersonal skills, and understand the spiritual, emotional, and social aspects of sexuality. Our Whole Lives is a commitment to sexual health and wholeness of the community. It's a very well-respected program that's been used in faith communities, as well as by public, charter, and private schools, after-school programs, youth groups, homeschoolers, colleges, correctional facilities, and even in senior centers and retirement communities. Although it was developed by two religious organizations, it contains no religious references or doctrine. OWL is considered to be a premier program in sexuality education. For example, in an assessment of sexuality education curricula by the Virginia Healthy Sexuality Work Group of the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance, OWL was among 4 recommended curricula They were called Promising Healthy Sexual Curricula in terms of their ability to prevent harmful and risky behaviors, two obviously super important things. While OWL is a program of lifespan sexuality and has 7 curricula spanning kindergarten through old age, the centerpiece of the program is the 7th to 9th grade curriculum. This is the key class that goes into the greatest detail about sexuality. It's just when kids are at that point of entering puberty. The program's comprised of 25 90-minute workshops, and over 2/3 of UU congregations offer it, including Buff. The goals of the program are to give honest, accurate, age-appropriate answers to questions regarding sexuality, to provide activities to help clarify values and improve decision-making skills, to create a safe and supportive peer group, to accept and honor diversity, to encourage kids to act for justice, and affirmation of parents as the primary sexual educators of their children. Having just completed the facilitator training earlier this summer with Nico and Lia, I can tell you this program is incredibly lively, fun, interactive, and so sensitive to every possible issue that kids could be dealing with. Every attempt is made to help every child feel included and welcome in the class and to feel safe and comfortable in joining the conversation. You'll hear more in a few moments about the life-changing personal experiences fellow buffers and their children have had in the program. If you choose to have your child attend the program, there will be a parent meeting in advance that will provide detailed information about what your child will be learning, and it will offer plenty of opportunity for you to ask any questions you have. The Our Whole Lives program seeks to transform a cultural climate of fear and confusion about sexuality into a new reality in which every person's inherent worth and dignity is valued. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions. It builds self-acceptance and self-esteem. It fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and even has the potential to save lives. For these reasons and more, we're really proud to offer Our Whole Lives.
Good morning. Ew, gross. I don't want to talk about it. These are the words of our 2 boys, ages 7 and 9, around the dinner table as we discussed their first OWL classes at our church many years ago. When asking our 5-year-old daughter, Casey, the response was, a family is love. It doesn't matter if you have a mom and a dad, or 2 moms or 2 dads, or only 1 mom or dad, a family is all about love. That's when we knew we made the right decision. Many conversations, and many years later, after many of sessions of OWL, as Laurie said it, every 2 years with content based on age-appropriate language and topics, have proven that they've gotten it. I recall a conversation with my daughter who was subjected, and I use that term literally, to the health class Conversations and Visuals associated with public school teaching of human sexuality. She came home from a class in high school and she was disgusted. She said to me, I really don't understand how people are supposed to learn about this. I'm so glad we have OWL. I know I could teach a better class better than that. That's when we knew we did the right thing. Myself, as a relatively new substitute teacher, went to an assignment one day at a local grade school only to find out that the teacher was sick, and it just happened to be the first day of sex ed. I sat through the 1960s, or so it seemed, movie as the young boys and girls giggled. I watched the video that showed a young girl standing in front of a mirror with the narrator saying how her bodies go through changes. And all of a sudden, in the mirror, the young girl popped out 2 lumps on her chest. And the boys giggled, and I said, everybody's body changes, and let's show some respect. Only to find out a few moments later that the same video showed that same girl walking on a pool deck and a boy on the diving board, and all you saw was his face turn red and the word boing. And then the girls started to giggle. I repeated the same thing to them as well. And when I got home, that's when I said, we did the right thing, as we discussed it over dinner that night. Human sexuality is a complicated topic with so much history based on our own life experience and cultures, etc. But it's a part of being human and a part of understanding our bodies. There are people that don't want their children to know about the various types and experiences of human sexuality, or don't want their children to understand the human body and all its properly named pieces, parts, and locations. There are people that are confused by what's being taught, perhaps even offended, but it's our job as parents to make sure that the information that our children are taught is accurate, truthful, and inclusive of all human sexuality, experience, and practice. And by the time our kids got to high school and met with their OWL groups, they were prepared to not only teach the class, but to make sure that inaccuracies that they hear on the street are righted and provide them with the very important information to make a decision about their own sexuality, whatever that looks like. As the kids matured and I started teaching OWL myself, I really came to appreciate the other side of the classroom and the information I was sharing with these growing youth. I witnessed some things in those classes that would not only make you smile, but would also break your heart. It's a long road to the truth, and what our children are learning about human sexuality is as so much is enshrouded in inaccurate information and rumor. It's important to answer their questions in a truthful manner and provide all the information we can to them. It's especially heartening to know that my kids went through the many years and phases of this program with not only other children who shared the knowledge, but with an adult that they knew and trusted. Once they start the classes, don't stop asking questions, but share what they have learned and enrich their lives with how your family culture and morals fit into this big human picture. My children are all adults now and in relationships of their own. I'm forever thankful for taking the leap and enrolling them in the OWL sessions at our church. And in the end, I'm comfortable knowing that they have learned so much, and I trust them to make their own decisions about their own sexuality. I'm always open to their questions, and believe me, there have been some pretty intimate ones. But I also know that we did the right thing. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Nico Rojas. In the process of volunteering to become an OWL facilitator, I learned that sex education at the public schools in the area isn't all that good. It is not extensive and focuses mostly on the health risks and pregnancy prevention. But sexuality is much more than the scary parts of it. It has to do with our personal and spiritual development as people. It has to do with our body image, our gender identity and expression, our sexual orientation, and our relationship skills. It also has to do with the risks and unintended consequences and with the different options that are available to us. Sexuality has to do with consent, with making decisions, with communication, with self-care, celebration, and closure. Growing up, I didn't receive the best sex ed. It was not a subject we would talk about at home. And whatever I learned was left to the school, talk among friends, and the internet, which is scary. I want my son, who will become a teenager in just a few years, to get a better education than I did. This is an analogy someone else shared during the training that I assisted in the summer. They said that learning all these lessons about sexuality without good education was like going up a mountain and then coming back down on the other side. And that a program like OWL was like a path cutting through the mountain and taking you directly to the other side. I like to think that most of us here at Buff made it through the mountain, and although those lessons in sexuality might have come at a higher cost for some, ultimately we were lucky because we made it to the other side, or are on our way down and still learning. And that is my motivation for being an OWL facilitator. I don't want people in our society taking the wrong path on that mountain, people getting lost, people getting bullied or becoming bullies. I don't want people with hate or self-hate in their hearts. I don't want people unhappy with their body image and who they are. I want people to have a safe space to learn, to ask questions, and to have those hard conversations. Sexuality is a very important aspect of our lives, and I want people to find enjoyment, nurturing, acceptance, self-confidence, spiritual fulfillment, love, and connection.
Is Leah here? Did she? No, she's not going to be here today. Okay. Okay, I think, I've been asked to put a cap on today's service, which has featured the importance of owl training. Growing up Methodist, I am not entirely comfortable about the whole talking about sex thing. Frankly, I've been dreading giving this sermon. Thanks to Judeo-Christianity, we are all pretty much hung up on sex. That is why owl training for our kids, where they can get straight, age-appropriate information from caring adults, is so important. Most of us receive at least some instruction in our sexuality from our parents. Unfortunately, even enlightened parents sometimes fail at passing on helpful information and wisdom that young people coming into sexual being need to live sexually positive lives. Several Christmases ago, my son, daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren from California were visiting. Patrick, my grandson, was at the time about 3 years old. He decided he would like to decorate the Christmas tree while naked. I and his grandmother did not see a problem with that. Somewhere in the decorating process, he found an ornament he liked with a hanger that was just the right size to slip over his little penis, which he did. I did not see a problem with that either. The decorating continued. A few minutes later, Patrick's mother, a practicing psychotherapist, well-schooled in encouraging kids to give healthy expression to themselves, walked into the room. Patrick turned around, ran towards his mom, and gleefully exclaimed, "Look, Mommy, I'm a Christmas tree." Patrick's mother gave an eek and said, most emphatically, "That is disgusting." She immediately regretted her reaction and was able to tell Patrick in a soothing way how much she admired his Christmas spirit. But by that time, it seems likely another confusing line of code had been written into Patrick's social programming. I should note that Amelia grew up in a very conservative evangelical Christian home. Sex is perhaps the most socially freighted of human activities. Sex gets all mixed up in love, marriage, morality, social identity, and even death. I can't remember my parents or grandparents ever saying the word sex, much less giving me or my siblings any useful help when it came to becoming sexual beings. Fortunately, I grew up on a farm, so I was pretty familiar with the mechanics of sex. I had seen farm animals copulating on dozens of occasions. As a young boy, I was puzzled. I knew the purpose of sex was procreation. I knew how sex happened. I just couldn't figure out why. Why would animals want to subject themselves to that kind of activity? One school spring morning when I was about 11 or 12, the school bus on which I and a dozen or so other farm kids were riding broke down on a remote North Dakota country road. The driver could not leave the bus and the kids, so he sent me to walk to a farmhouse about half a mile away to ask the farmer to use the phone. I was given the phone number and instructed to call the school to get another bus to come rescue us. Off I went. Upon arriving at the farmhouse, I knocked on the door, and after a brief wait, a young farm wife opened the door wearing some very scanty pajamas and smelling of just having arisen from bed. I was instantly enlightened. The why animals have sex slammed into place like a sledgehammer hitting a steel rail. After some stammering about, I was able to pull myself together and make the driver's request. She led me to their phone, but I was so discombobulated I couldn't remember the phone number. She looked the phone number up for me in a phone book. That was back when we had phone books. And I made the call, left quickly, and somehow made my way back to the bus. I was disturbed, enticed, and embarrassed by the desires that had arisen in me. When I returned to the bus, the driver asked for a report, but I was in such a state that I was not sure of what I had done or what I had said. Over 60 years later, the look and smell of the young farmer's wife is still fresh. Owl training is, I think, a much better way to prepare young people for these kinds of formative moments which everyone has sooner or later. How to talk about sexuality with their children often poses a problem for spouses, especially when there are different opinions about how to proceed. Back when my 3 boys were about 12, 13, and 14, they shared a bedroom and a bathroom. Under the bathroom sink was a Tupperware caddy that was used to hold cleaning supplies. One day, Patty found neatly tucked under the caddy a Victoria's Secret catalog. She showed me the catalog, wondering why such an item would be in the boys' bathroom. Knowing full well why the catalog was there, but feeling playful, I suggested that maybe the boys were thinking of ordering something from it for the upcoming Mother's Day celebration. Patty, still clueless, said, "Oh, I would never wear anything like that." And that's true, she wouldn't. I had had enough fun, so I said that judging by the catalog's degraded condition and the stiffness of the pages, that I'm trying to be serious here, that they were using it as a fantasy aid. At that point, a longish discussion followed over whether or not we should put the catalog back or throw it away. I was for leaving things alone. In the end, I lost the debate and Patty threw it out. Strangely, another piece of similar literature appeared under the caddy the next time the bathroom was cleaned. Another complication to passing along useful sexual information and wisdom to our children is the widespread prevalence of pornography. According to a national survey, 54% of children have viewed pornography before the age of 13. Pornography objectifies people and should not be used to teach sexuality to children. And it certainly does not seem to promote finding a nice boy or girl to invite to the prom. Beth, would you please pull up that image of the young woman I sent to you? Back in 2016, many of us became familiar with this image. Did everyone recognize the figure? Raise your hand if you recognize it. Okay, good. Okay, very good. When Stormy Daniels was making the national news, I Googled her. It turned out that not every site that popped up was entirely wholesome. After scanning some of the news and opinion sites, I went to one featuring some of Stormy's cinematic accomplishments. The video I chose features Stormy, 3 burly young men dressed in biker garb, and a really sweet, brand new looking Harley Davidson motorcycle. At first, I thought the video was going to include a road trip. I was wrong. I watched for a few minutes, but the plot was pretty thin. I shut the video off before the end, but I think I am safe in saying that nothing was done during the video to void the warranty on the Harley. Though I did feel a bit sorry for the person who was in charge of the cleanup crew. No way that pornography should be used to teach kids. But as I said, 54% of kids do see pornography before the age of 13. In conclusion, I just want to say thank you for the OWL program and for our volunteers who are willing to pass their knowledge and wisdom on to our kids, and to Joan, Brett, Candace, Beth, and our choir for the lovely service they have provided for us today. So thank you all. Let's give those folks a round of applause. Thank you. Well, I see that we haven't made our hour and 15 minutes yet, so let me ask you, I have a quiz. This is to check your sexual attitudes. The other day I went to celebrate my birthday, my wife and I went into Chicago to see a taping of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. My daughter had bought it for me for a birthday present, and took us to have a nice supper, and so it was very nice birthday present. I noticed that my kids are starting to do that now. They're starting to buy me presents, somewhat lavish presents for my birthday. So, I find very delightful. I still keep a tab running on those. So, at any rate, one of the options for dinner was to go to a place whose name I won't mention, where you can get a chocolate shake. And a chocolate shake, when you order a chocolate shake there, it's a Black-owned and Black-run establishment. And apparently they have quite a few buxom young black women there. And if you order a black shake, when they deliver the shake, they will approach you with their bosoms and shake them in a provocative way. So the question I have for you is, how many of you hope this story ends with me going to that place? How many of you hope the story ends with me not going to that place? How many of you are horrified I even bring it up? Okay.